Folks, this is Chris Voss from the chrisvossshow.com, the chrisvossshow.com. Be sure to check back daily for new posts. One thing I want to talk to you, recently I put up a post about don't just get a job, get multiple revenue streams, okay? Now I want to talk to you about some of the ways that I've achieved not only being a serial entrepreneur, being successful at beating the 99% failure rate that entrepreneurs go through, but also the way that I get outside of current business that I own and I develop new companies. One of the things that I'm about fast failures. I'm about testing projects and seeing if they can work, and putting them into a very small box, a very inexpensive box, seeing if we can make the dynamics of our projects and the profit margins work on a very small scale, and from there, seeing what you can exponate. Well, most people don't realize if you can make something work like a KFC or McDonald's or something locally in one setup or one restaurant, it's just a matter of exponating that from there. So the most important thing is sometimes don't think too big, build it small, and then grow it as you see fit, and you can see the distance and the vision of what you're going to achieve in profitability. So the one thing I do is I give my projects goals. There's a lot of times where I have my companies running and doing their thing, but I go looking for new avenues or venues. Sometimes someone brings they need money, a loan, or whatever the case is, and we take a look at what they're doing and how we can maybe incorporate it to what we're doing, or some of the advantages that we can take in their given market that they haven't been able to take advantage of because they're locked into a semblance of thinking that is making them non-profitable. So a lot of times what we do is we set goals for our projects, okay? One of the things I would advise you to do, that if you're an entrepreneur, become a great project manager, okay? It's very important, not only within your corporation, but getting outside your corporations and your interests. So what we do is we normally set goals for the different adventures or different interests that I might have. So let's say, for example, I have an interest in a clothing company. I'll give you a good example of this. So what we do is we'll usually say, okay, let's do some exploratory investigation. We'll do some investigation on what they do, how they do, what their profit margins. This information now is, of course, more freely available to you than ever because you can Google it. Back in my day, you actually had to call up companies and go digging for information. It was a whole lot harder to come by this information. So thereby, once you get started down that road, you start setting goals for projects. Okay. Now the reason I do that is because I normally have about 4 to 6 different interests going at any given time. Not only do I have the core group of revenue streams that I have, but I'm also looking to also develop new ones. Right now I'm working on a project where we're trying to get angel investors up to invest in a $1 million, $1.5 million project to develop iPhone apps and mobile apps on some check-in services and some 4 or 5 different ideas that I have. So that's one of the projects that's currently ongoing. And we're constantly developing new stuff. There's constantly stuff in production, but they have to meet certain goals in order to continue to live, if you will. Okay, does that make sense? I'll give you an example. I was doing blogging on what was called the Voss Report. It was for largely my mortgage wholesale business. I've been in the mortgage business for over 20 years. I was doing it for my wholesale business and talking about the future, the economy, all that sort of background that I have with the stock market and predicting the future of what Alan Greenspan or Bernanke might do, et cetera, et cetera. So we were doing that and started delving into the social media area. And I did it for the companies I had at the time that were doing really well. And then the recession started shutting those companies slowly down, starting really affecting their revenue streams. Well, I noticed I could use social media and different things on the web to really drive a lot of traffic to my company's websites. So from there, we started to develop the Chris Voss Show, and some of the different ideas and concepts around social media. We didn't really know where it was going to go. But there seemed to be this stream. I suddenly started getting tons of these social media experts calling me, trying to find out, how to do what I was doing. And they just noticed I was being successful. Different CEOs of companies started calling me, saying, "Oh, you're being successful at this." And I was just like, really? I thought I kind of sucked at this, but I'm doing the best I can. So from there, it progressed to a WordPress.com site. the chrisvossshow.com. And I'm just giving you an example here to play with. And I said, look, if we can make this site work, we'll put on the wordpress.com site, and we'll play with it, and we'll try and see if we can drive traffic to it. What was interesting was I had a lot of people write me and go, oh, why don't you start your own blog and your own site, and you're on this and you're on that. What they didn't understand was I was still involved very heavily in 4 different other industries that were making very good money and taking up a lot of my time. And so this venue, actually the Chris Voss Show, was one of those experimental outreach programs that I have in my goal systems and my multiple revenue streams, where I'm like, let's see where this goes. Let's see if it catches legs, and if it walks on its own, we'll fund it some more, we'll throw some more money at it. So in essence, what happened was a very interesting paradigm. The revenue streams that we had started to close, especially one of the companies, and this is why you don't own it, you don't do it, you don't control it, you don't mess with it. But one of the companies that we were involved with that was delivering the services that we need to execute the product, they've ended up filing bankruptcy. Had nothing to do with us, of course. They're very poorly managed. We knew for about a year and a half that there was the potential of them doing so. In fact, I actually sat down with the CEO several times and encouraged him my advice that he was headed towards bankruptcy, and of course he was some idiot. So as those windows started to close over here on my other revenue streams, the windows that were opening on my some of my experimental projects were starting to fulfill themselves. They were starting to meet their goals. And as they met their goals or exceeded their goals, I started to say, okay, well, let's put more money over here instead of over here, because obviously this appears to have a vision, this appears to have a course that's setting, and over here we seem to be seeing some of these windows close. And we'll keep them open for as long as we can and receive revenue from them as long as we can. But let's develop this new area and see where it goes. So the Chris Voss Show on the WordPress.com site, it was kind of funny. People write me and go, "Oh, why don't you do your own blog show and why don't you do your own .com?" And I said, "Look, you know what? This is an experiment. I've got money over here. We got to see if this is going to get money over there. We're not moving over there until we're over here, etc., etc." There's only so many shells you can really play with and still be successful. So, in the essence, the Chris Voss Show on the WordPress.com site met its goals. And so then we, once we saw that it could achieve something, we saw that the vision could be there, we moved it to its own .com. And as you probably know, we've done 250,000 page views in the last year. As of the end of the month of August 2010, we've only been open for a year on that website. So, and that website started out very successful. I mean, the first day we had over 83 people there, even though there was no support from any search engines whatsoever, which is pretty good considering social media was still pretty young at the time. So, goals are important. Think of yourself as a project manager, and that's probably the most important thing you have. That you have these different projects. Sometimes I think of them as different plates, where I'm the guy who runs around and spins the plates. But when you're experimenting or trying stuff, I don't just go in and spend a bunch of money in a company. I've done it once, and it took a year to get my money back. It did go profitable. It was a pain in the ass. So I really believe in lean operations. So do some experiments. Give things time to see if they can walk, see if they can become something. Give things a little bit of money, enough so they can play with them. They can play, they can maybe find their legs, whatever the case may be. But give them goals that they have to meet. And that's the greatest thing to get different projects. If you operate from that basis, you can give about 3 to 5 different projects the ability to possibly walk on their own. And that's real important for you to take and do. The worst thing is sometimes I see people do is they put all their eggs in one basket, as I've talked to before, with either a job or maybe just one company. Now, there's some people that may have to do that because they don't multitask very well. But if you can multitask fairly well, try different projects, try different things. Make sure you control them, but try different things and give those things goals and see how they operate, see what they do. We had a very successful company at one time, one of our early companies. We really loved it, did well. It hit like money on the stuff, but a year and a half into it, we decided to start another corporation. It made way more money. Okay, Then we had to change the focus. We had to change the goal structure. We had to change the achievement structure back to, obviously, the company was giving us a higher return on investment and a higher revenue stream per transaction. So at that point, we knew that we were in a better position to make money off that company. So set goals for your multiple revenue streams. Give things a little bit of rope. See how they do. See if they grab legs. See if they walk and all that good stuff. And then throw them some more money and see what happens. Don't put your eggs all in one basket. I think that's kind of my point here. But I also want to explain to you how I experiment, how I drive. What's interesting to me is if I keep enough fingers going and if I keep enough experiments running, sometimes experiments tend to close down and sometimes other ones open up. Certainly, it's been more predominant that I've seen windows close because of the recession. That's been a real big problem with the recession. I think I would probably have all 5 or 6 things going right now at the same time if there was no recession. That would probably be a fact. But because of the recession, you know, it's a constant fight to find something that works. And sometimes you don't know what works. You don't really know what's going to hit. And when it does hit, you're like, boom, that's it. And that's kind of what happened with the Chris Voss Show.com as an example, and it's what's happened with a lot of different companies I've had. We've put a minimum amount of money into them. We put them up. We've said, hey, you run, you show us legs, you meet your goals, you get some more money, we'll play with you some more. Thanks for coming by the chrisvossshow.com. I hope that helps you kind of understand how I play that game. Bye-bye.